Hey guys, if you're in the market for a heating and air system, you may be figuring out that there is a way of doing things, and sometimes homeowners may not be in love with the way things are done. Sometimes it's just the way things are done, whether it's good or bad. A lot of folks are sometimes surprised by the way things are done. So I wanted to do a video that, if I were to call this video anything, I would say beat the system. Follow these tips, and this is how you can kind of beat the system or get what you want when dealing with heating and air contractors. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to give you a way that a lot of homeowners think they're beating the system, but they're actually probably not, that they're actually creating more headaches for themselves, and they are not avoiding the system at all, that they're playing right into it and having more headaches because of it. So I thought I'd go through a few of these, and hopefully they help you in your purchase. The first one, it's one that I've actually learned here recently while helping folks on our new HVAC guide, and that is, if you have something that you want, but maybe it might be a little confrontational, maybe you feel like it might not come off very well if you directly ask something to the contractor, you're wanting to keep a good relationship with them. So some of those things could be just something simple as, hey, can I see a proof of your contractor's license or your insurance? Some homeowners, it can turn a relationship south if the contractor feels like that trust is broken or whatever. For whatever reason, you feel like there could be a little strife just from you asking something simple. Most good heating and air guys aren't going to have a problem with something like that, but if you are not sure, then you can use this little trick, and that is, I've been telling folks when they're using our guide, tell the contractor, tell your technician that your cousin who lives far away is in the heating and air trade, and your cousin, make your cousin the bad guy. Your cousin is the one that is requesting this to be done. You can approach them and say, hey, my cousin is saying, he's in the heating and air industry, he's saying that I need to get a proof of your insurance, a proof of your contractor's license before we proceed. Another one, we were just helping somebody with the guide a couple weeks ago, and the contractor was not doing what we would call a proper signed contract, everything in writing up front before doing business. And they felt like if they approached the contractor with that, it might be a little uneasy, could very well go south, ruin a relationship that could be great for the next 20 years to come just by asking, can we get all this in writing? So I just told them, tell them it's your cousin requesting this, that your cousin has said, before y'all do business, make sure you get that contract put in place. So make your cousin the bad guy, so that way you get what you want, or at least you can request what you want without having to have any kind of weird awkwardness there. Next, it's okay to be transparent with contractors that you're going to get multiple quotes, in my opinion. Now, you kind of feel that out. There may be situations where maybe you don't want to necessarily share that. Maybe you've got a contractor you've had a long relationship with, and you don't want to just kind of come at them and say, well, hey, by the way, I'm going to be shopping you. I can tell you when I'm doing quotes for Griffin Air, if a homeowner says to me, hey, I'm going to get multiple quotes, or I'm going to get another quote, that's not out of the ordinary, and I would say most good companies would be fine with that. But I think that if you're honest about it, if you tell a contractor, hey, I'm going to be getting multiple quotes, maybe it's your way of telling them, make sure you treat me right, make sure you're not gouging me here on the price or taking advantage in some way. Hey, I'm going to be shopping you and making sure everything's on the up and up. So I personally think that in most scenarios, it's probably okay, unless maybe you're kin to your heating and air guy and you don't want to just be forthright and say, hey, by the way, relative, I'm going to be shopping you. Most other scenarios, I'd say it's probably a good idea just to be upfront, transparent, and honest and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be getting other quotes. You might want to make sure you sharpen that pencil when you're giving me the price. Make sure you don't just skim through this. We definitely get everything in order here. The next one is one that I touched on in a recent video, and it's something that I've heard other contractors or other people in the service industry kind of recommend to folks. And I'm a little on the fence about it, to be honest with you. And that is haggling with them over the price. A lot of contractors won't haggle at all. Like, if I can tell you that at Griffin Air, more times than not, if somebody tries to haggle with me, or if they try to say, is this your bottom line? In most cases, I'm giving them the best price I can. I'm giving them a competitive price, one that I can pay my employees what they deserve to be paid. and still cover the job and also make a little bit of a profit for the company. Always a horrible thing to say these days, but most companies, that's what they're in business for, is to make a little profit. And so we usually won't mess with the pricing or anything. We've got it where we need it to. But I've heard other people report, and a few folks we've helped with our guide say that haggling in the right way, they've actually been able to lower the price a little bit. Now, I'm not saying when you get that price, you got to be kind of like you're buying a used car. Hey, let me give you this counter offer or anything like that. But maybe if you fib a little and you say, hey, brand X or this company over here is saying that they're going to give me the same thing you are at this price, but I really like your company. Can you match their price? And maybe you might have some luck with that. I think all in all, in most cases, you kind of get what you pay for. But if you're getting multiple quotes and you were to say to one of the companies, this company over here is at this price, can you lower yours at all? I prefer to use you if you can lower it at all. And maybe you can get that price down a little bit. Next, I think that one way you could beat the system is get references on companies. So it's one thing to read their reviews online or Better Business Bureau or however you're checking their reputation. But if they're trying to sell you a product, maybe you're not as familiar with it, maybe you're not familiar with the company at all, it's okay to ask for references in most cases. I've had folks do that with us. Most good companies are going to have customers that love them and are going to be happy to give a reference for them. I've even had customers say to me, hey, I'm not very familiar with this particular product. I remember when the Daikin Fit came out, I had a guy that, he wanted to just see one before he pulled the trigger, before he gave me a deposit to pay the money to have this installed. He wanted to see one. And so we were able to call one of our customers and say, weird question, we've got somebody interested in the Fit. Would you be okay with them at least taking a peek at yours, seeing how loud it is and things like that? Or maybe I should say quiet it is. Just lay hands on it and just see what they're buying. And luckily this customer that we called was fine with it. They were like, of course, have them pop over. They can definitely take a look. I would use a little filter with that in a lot of cases. Again, if it's a good company, they should be able to give you some sort of references, somebody that you can maybe even talk to, and they're going to be honest with you and tell you what they do or don't like about the company. And obviously, if it's a reference the company gave you, they're going to tell you what they like about the company. So no problem there. Next, I would say don't be in a hurry. And I know that's easier said than done, especially if it's a real hot day or a real cold night. You're trying to get some comfort in one way, shape, or form, but it's nice that if you can be in a position where you don't have to be in a hurry, you can shop around, you can make sure everything, you can read through a contract before you're going to pull the trigger. I've never been a fan. I've heard of companies where they basically have salesmen that work there that go in and try to close the sale, where they'll give the price and give the options and kind of that kitchen table conversation, and then expect to have a customer that's going to sign the dotted line before they leave that house. I would say as a consumer, as a homeowner, it's a good idea to not be in a hurry. Get multiple quotes, do some searching online, watch some of my videos. Just kidding. Probably some better videos being made out there that you can gather information with. Just don't be in a hurry, especially if you're in the extreme temperatures. If you're in the dead heat of summer, if you can figure out a way to get maybe a portable air conditioner and get through the busy season, you might even get a little bit of a deal from a company. Some companies do raise and lower their prices based on how busy they are. We don't do that, but some companies do. And the last thing I'll say is go with a good company. If you find a good technician, regardless of who they're employed by, some technicians, I would get their phone number if you can. Now, some companies and some even technicians might not be okay with that. You don't want to be too forthright. If the technician's not comfortable with it, they'll say, I don't give out my personal number. You'll have to call the company. But I think if you explain to them, hey, I really like you. If you were to ever leave this company, I'd love a way to get in touch with you, or what's your social media, or what's the best way to get in touch with you in case you were to ever leave this particular company. I want to keep in touch. So that way, regardless of what happens, maybe the company goes out of business, maybe that technician leaves that company, and it's a good idea for you to get their contact information so you can stay in touch. And then finally, I know I said at the beginning of the video that I would give you a tidbit of information where a lot of homeowners are trying to beat the system and they're not, that they are actually avoiding the system but making more headaches for themselves. And I'm seeing a lot of folks more and more go with some of these DIY products. Now, if you know what you're doing, that's not the point here. I've had folks making the argument that I get these heating and air technicians and they don't seem like they know what they're doing either, so what's the difference? I'll just save the money, which isn't actually a horrible argument. When you avoid the system entirely and you go with a DIY system, one concern of mine is, we've talked about this in a couple other videos, but a lot of these DIY type products, they're a little disingenuous with some of their marketing. Some of them are even saying things like, oh, we're a DIY product, but then they'll put disclaimers on there saying it's got to be installed by a heating and air professional. They wouldn't be putting that on there if they weren't trying to cover themselves. So when you're trying to avoid the system, you're trying to get through this and beat the system in one way or shape or form, save the money, save the headaches of dealing with a horrible contractor, and then you end up going down this other path where you have way more headaches and probably end up eventually calling a contractor anyway. So just my 2 cents on that. Let me know your thoughts. Have you figured out some ways to beat the system in the heating and air industry? Comment those down below. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.